We want to call our March 2021 committee meetings to order. We want to apologize to commissioners who may not be aware that we just recently got into the courtroom, so that's why you do not have a monitor in front of you. So hopefully everything will be on one of the screens, and you'll have to look on either side for the screens. I want to remind all the commissioners to be sure that your mics are on at this time, and when you address the chairman of a committee, please speak through your mics. At this time, the chair will recognize Chairman Randy DeBoard of the Audit Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to call the Audit Committee to order. And visitors wishing to address the committee, I have Debbie Hammond that is going to speak on behalf of our sheriff.
Sheriff Jarnigan has requested I speak for him regarding to the audit finding. The sheriff had several threats made against himself, and he had found evidence in the woods behind his home where someone had been sitting there apparently for long periods of time. So he decided to purchase trail cameras to be used not for hunting but for surveillance around his home to give him and his family warning when someone was in the area. So we bought the trail cameras. The auditors pointed out that there's no way to prove what he was using the cameras for because they were at his personal residence. The sheriff agreed and reimbursed the county for the money, and instead of returning the cameras to the sheriff's department when he's through with them, he'll just keep them for his personal use.
Do we have anyone else that would like to address the committee?
Is there an auditor going to talk?
Yes.
Oh, I'll wait till.
My name is Linda Noe, 2343 Joe Stevens Road. Regarding the audit, I would like to discuss the finding in the mayor's office on the bidding for the playground equipment. You know, we've got the situation where you can buy off the state, bid plan or whatever you want to call it. But my concern is, why wouldn't you bid it and then use the state plan as a backup? If you don't get a bid, lower than the state plan, then you go to the state plan. But it seems like we just, whatever has been agreed to at the state level, and I realize it's done by competitive bidding at the state level, but not everybody participates in that competitive bid for playground equipment or other items, even cars and things like that. So again, why not put it out to bid, see what you get? You already know what the state, set bid is, and then you can compare the two. And you might actually come out better. I don't know. It would all depend. But you may come out better than the state bid. Thank you.
Do we have anyone else who would like to address the committee? In old business, we have none. In new business, we have our presentation of the Hamlin County government audit for fiscal year ending June 30th of 2020. Mr. Treese.
I will address the findings. I think the mayor and one will be talking about the financial numbers there. There was two findings in the audit report. Both of them have already been discussed. The first one dealt with a bid question that the State Department of Health had. The county policy did not specifically address using cooperative purchasing agreements. That is allowed by state statute, but the county's policy did not. The State Department of Health had a question about that, took a finding, which we just repeated in our report. The mayor's written response is included along with his corrective action plan. The second finding related to Office of the Sheriff, like Debbie mentioned back there. Those funds were, you used the calendar fund, which is a promotional item that the sheriff does every year, has a calendar made, and those proceeds generate about $7,000 a year, which comes into the trustee, placed in the general fund, and then county commission appropriates that money in the sheriff's budget. We did take exception with some trail cameras that were bought, just because those can't be controlled. They could be used for other purposes besides security at the sheriff's house. So we didn't think that was appropriate expenditure, and those funds were reimbursed by the sheriff whenever we did discuss it with him. And I think that's in his corrective action plan as well.
What was the amount of that expenditure?
I think it's about $900 roughly.
So you're saying that the sheriff bought these cameras out of his calendar fund?
His calendar fund, yes, sir.
Okay, and what's the issue with that as far as,
Well, the calendar funds are fine. That's just the county revenue that's generated by the sheriff's department. Looks like any other revenue that's generated by him by being sheriff. He does a calendar. He contracts with a company that does the calendars. They pay the county $7,000 as a promotional to do those calendars.
so you're saying if he's doing that promotion, he's got the right to use that money for his personal benefit?
Well, no, that's why we had him reimburse it. That's why we told him the cameras were questionable if they were personal nature or related to the county. But the funds are county generated. We consider those from the comptroller's office to be county generated funds, and they are handled appropriately. The money comes into Scotty's office, it's receipted into the general fund. County commission appropriates it out every year. Any funds that aren't spent, I think, are assigned or committed one, and then used for the next year's budget.
Oh, okay.
That's in a separate line item, I think, in the sheriff's department budget, correct? Yeah.
And you're assured that that's been reimbursed?
Yes. Yes.
And that does become part of the general fund, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
All of it is included and accounted for in the general fund.
Okay.
If he pays, when escrow pays for those cameras, the cameras are his.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, he basically purchased those cameras by reimbursing the county, yeah. That it?
Does anyone have any questions?
Just on the purchase of the cameras, when the county bought those, the sheriff's department bought those, do they pay tax on that?
No, we do not.
Okay, then when sheriff bought them, did he pay tax?
No.
I think he sent one of them actually back, didn't he? And
Yes,
then only-
let them get work when we
But he didn't pay sales tax on them? But
And
he's,
it was bought through the county purchasing system. They had a purchase order, invoice, everything.
I understand that, but he's supposed to pay sales tax.
Sure.
We need to,
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Treese. Ms. Bryant, Hurst?
And just let me add one thing from the county mayor's office. We will be bringing you an updated draft for our purchasing policies that will make some things, I'm gonna say, explicitly clear about grant spending on that federal grant spending. We interpreted it that co-op and statewide contracts would have been accepted, but that's where the state had their questions. We'll bring you some policies that will address that. And also, we've got, in our policy, it's been a long time since they've been updated, some of the codes have changed, and we'll update that in our we'll update some of the other things that need to be caught up to.
Will that be bid in the future?
What we have in our policy now are, if it's over right now, state law, if it's over $10,000, then we either need to competitively bid, use a statewide contract, or we use the cooperative purchasing agreements that y'all have approved in former session. So playground equipment of the type that we got was covered in the co-op purchasing. And that's one of those things that's almost like I'm going to say this, almost like a nationwide. We didn't have any, I'm going to say what you might call truly local bidders that we thought would interested, but so we did the co-op purchasing, was an efficient way to handle it.
Okay. Any additional questions for Ms. Hurst? And is there any more to report on with the?
No, of course, you spoke with with Mark Trees.
Right.
He's our audit manager out of the comptroller's office. Now, we have some graphs here, just some information, not the findings themselves, but some just quick points that I'd like for you to all have a chance to look at. And that's what we've got up on the screen here. So we can move on with that. The first one shows you what's been happening with our general fund balances. And as you can see, that top line is our total fund balance. Goes back to 2010 with the year that we just ended, 2020. And you can see we grew it. It took a dive there about 2017. And as I understand it, that was the year we had a tax increase. I believe it was 14 cents. Not all of it went to the general fund. Then you can see that we've been progressively growing our fund balance, kind of getting it back into an area where it would be sufficient. The bottom line, the blue line, if you can see it, is our unassigned fund balance. Those are funds that we can use that aren't restricted for any, or committed, or assigned to any other purpose. So if we have, I'm going to say, let's just say that the worst had happened during the year with COVID, and we had really taken a nosedive in revenues. This shows you why an unassigned fund balance is a positive thing. And we shoot for a percentage, which is on the next slide, Trish. You can see that we maxed out about 32.3. And now this year we ended at 29. We have kind of an internal policy. We want to stay between 20 and 25%. And so we're kind of back in that area where we have unassigned funds in case we have just an emergency or something of that nature. Then if we move on to the next slide, we take a quick look at what's happening in, should be, I think, solid waste and sanitation. Now, we look at a downward trend, and that's not always a good thing, a downward trend. But we added a note at the bottom, and I can see here myself. Fund balances here, now if we go back to the general fund, we were about 20%. Expenditures were about 29% of total fund balances, or unassigned. In this case, it's still 73.9%. So that's a very healthy percentage right there. We've been moving it down kind of into the area where it needs to be. Does that make sense? Next slide. Same thing with our highway. Now, it was trending down in the $700,000 to $900,000 range. Got as low as $329,000 in 2014. Kind of hovered in there, and then you see it take a really steep climb upward. That was the Improve Act monies that the state implemented there in the last few years of the governor's term. And so now we've begun to use a little bit of it this past year. But that's about each year we were getting successively, because of the additional gas tax, about at least $100,000 additional into the highway fund. Now, I don't know if you remember, and I know some of you, of course, weren't here, but when we were doing our budget for the highway this past year, we didn't increase what we expected to get on highway. In fact, we reduced it because of what was the uncertainty of what was happening with COVID. Right now, as of the 6 months that we have that count toward this year's budget, we are right at 50%. So it looks like budgeting for that particular revenue is kind of on target. even though we hope that it picks up as COVID restrictions are removed and there's more travel. Again, if you have any questions about that.
It'll pick up to about 1.778, where it's 1.613 now.
Now say that again.
The right hand all the way over to your right, that's where it's at as of now,
That's the fund balance, yes.
fund balance.
Yes.
And we're doing it 50%.
Right now, our revenues from the gas tax, all, there's four components of the gas tax, and they all go into the same line item. We are right at 50% of collections, 50.4, because I was looking at that in relation to this. But
So you
we are-
saying the fund balance could go up?
Always possible, but I'm not sure, again, with our highway department, when Barry was here, we've had to add some things because of expenditures related to heavy equipment. So we did add some things to the budget on the expenditure side. Again, what I've got, some of the notes I'd made is that our highway revenues are down about 3.7%. But yet we reduced our expectations and we're doing well in that, we seem to be exactly where we need to be right now. Any question about?
Does anyone have any additional questions or anything they want to present?
Yeah, I don't see anywhere in here where, how much, I just want to know how much the sheriff had reimbursed. We got 900 and something, do we?
It was right here, $892.41.
I missed that.
Well, I don't know that it was said, but I made a note.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't sure exactly who would be talking when, but I made a note. Pardon?
892.
I've got $892.41.
And that was the
Thank you.
total price of those cameras.
Pardon?
And that was the total price of those cameras minus the taxes.
Minus the sales tax.
Well, that was the price of the cameras.
Yeah.
And without having the computation in front of me, I honestly don't remember, I don't remember the sales tax. He reimbursed the he reimbursed the county for what we paid out of pocket for that, for sure.
I'm just, will that ever come up somewhere where,
It could, and Commissioner would, and I'm not 100% sure of this, but would try to find out that, when there's sales, it's always sales and use tax.
yeah.
The use taxes might actually fall upon the sheriff to pay since it turned into a personal purchase. The county did not expend sales tax. Let me tell you that. We did not expend sales tax on this purchase. The sheriff reimbursed us for everything we did spend as soon as it was determined that it wouldn't be appropriate. Now, the sales tax on those items, which you're exactly right about, I would think that the burden to pay those taxes might fall on the sheriff, but I'm not going to, and, it's one of those things that would need a little research.
The big issue everybody's having, I think, is the fact that, we've had issues here at the courthouse, we had issues out at the landfill. Now we have issues over at the sheriff's department. It's like, are they getting treated equal? I don't think so, but anyways.
Well, the office does try to does review all purchases, and,
Well,
I mean, as you would know that.
Sure.
But, and occasionally, when we have had questions, we'll contact either the sheriff or any department over questions that we would have regarding purchases. We had asked some more questions about this, but, the sheriff's department, the sheriff thought it was, he was trying to do this for his safety and security, and thought that was in line with his job duties, to have that safety and security. So we went ahead and, we processed it. But this is an area, and I believe that county audit's always trying to be extremely diligent, and we've all, get guidance from them. But they felt that this, again, because of lack of control over those cameras, that it would be hard to support it as a county purchase.
Well, he just needs to know, I guess the sheriff needs to know, if he doesn't already, that he may be responsible for some sales tax. I mean, it's not a whole lot, it's not gonna break the bank, but, you know.
I'll look back at it, at this, and we'll be glad to let him know anything that we can find out about it. Don't mean to be talking away from the mic, excuse me for that,
You're fine.
but we'll try to make sure that we do see that that's taken care of,
Thank you.
or give him the information.
Give him the information. It's on him then.
I think that's all I have under this.
Anyone else have any comments or questions? Thank you, Ms. Hirsch. Ms. Bryant. That is, on the items of interest, we have discussed that thoroughly, so that is all I have, Mr.
Don't we
Chair.
need a motion?
We have
on the-
Do we have a motion
on the
to
audit?
approve the audit as presented?
So moved.
Got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Any opposition, like sign? Motion carries. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman of the Board. At this time, the Chair will recognize Chairman of the Board of the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to call the Finance Committee to order. Do we have any visitors wishing to address the committee?
Just, let's give the clerk a couple of minutes to get her screen back up, please.
Sure. Absolutely.
We're ready.
All right, we'll start this over. Do we have anyone wanting to address the committee? Seeing none, in your recurring business, you've had a chance to review the monthly checks. Do we have a motion to approve the checks as written?
So moved.
I'll make
Got
a
a
motion.
motion?
Second.
Got a second? Do we have any discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition, like sign? Motion carries. In old business, we have none. In new business, we have budget amendments. Ann, Bryant Hurst. So, Ms. Antrican?
Budget amendment this evening is pending board approval tomorrow night, just to let you know. I separated it into two different parts, hopefully to avoid confusion, because the first part has a lot of account codes in there. But the total budget amendment is $649,643. The first part, which is a one-time non-recurring bonus for staff, is $592,641. And the majority of the funding for that is coming from the state. They provided $470,000 for a one-time bonus for certified staff. The board wanted to include all staff in that bonus, so for $122,641 out of the undesignated fund balance, that will allow us to provide a bonus for non-certified staff as well. And I included the amounts on there. It would provide for full-time, $500 for the certified staff, $250 for part-time certified. And then for the non-certified staff, it would provide a one-time bonus of $250, and for part-time non-certified, $125. And I'll answer any questions on that first part before I move on to the second part.
This is a one-time funding that basically was handed down from the state, is that correct?
It is.
And it does not impact the maintenance of effort at all?
It
Is
does
that correct?
not.
Okay.
It does not.
Do we have a motion to approve?
Chairman, based on tomorrow,
She's got a second part she wants to say.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Do it.
That one first.
That way separate, okay.
The second part of that amendment for $57,002 is regarding the extended school program, which is a self-supporting before and after school program that we provide. And we ran an extra month this summer in August because school didn't start until September. And she is also running a morning program this year that she doesn't normally run. And this is not a pay increase for anyone in that program, but this is simply additional hours due to the additional hours they're running. And it does not come out of our general fund. It comes from their reserve.
Okay, so what is the combined, is that the
The
nine?
combined total is the $649,643.
Okay. And Mr. Chairman, we vote that collectively as one?
Okay.
Okay. So do we have a motion to approve?
Chairman,
Yes.
you haven't voted on it yet, your board has it? You
The
said?
board, it will go before the board tomorrow night, so if anything were to happen during that board meeting, we will either pull it from the agenda or send a revised version.
Okay, based on that, Chairman, I'll make a motion that we pass it.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second. Chris Cutshaw.
Chris Cutsall. Do we have any question?
Oh, I'm sorry.
All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Antrican. Item 4A2, Fund 101 CARES Act grant.
Just to remind you, we received almost $1 million in CARES Act funding. And the reason this budget amendment, I'm going to say, looks a little different with such a high dollar value going into assigned for general government is that much of this expense was from the prior fiscal year. So it doesn't need a budget amendment because we've closed that year out. But what I've got listed here are the line items that need additional funding that were purchased, I'm going to say with COVID purposes in mind. And if you would like, we can go down through here, but we do have support for all of these line items. But I just wanted to, what would be your preference?
Is that for this year?
Yes.
That's
Yes.
for this year, 968,000.
That's the total amount of the grant. The county literally received that money. But we split the spending of it between last year and this year. And that's why we don't have line items here that primarily total that $900 and something thousand. Also, just so you know, we were able to submit for reimbursement some salary line items. But of course, we fully fund our salary line items. So you don't have to put more money back into them. Now, we've gone all over this with county audit. So this is how they recommend that we handle this.
The grant, you said you wasn't covered last year, and you were gonna put part of this back in to cover last year?
It's covering last year by going back into fund balance.
Going back in the fund balance. And that's where
Because
this
last
money,
year is already closed out.
and that's where this money will go back into fund
So
balance.
how much money are we talking about for this year
For this year.
out of that 960?
It's about $230,000.
Should we use that figure instead of the 900?
No, because we got a check for the 900. That has to go into our revenue.
Oh,
And that's what, if you look down at that very last line item,
Okay.
it says COVID-19 grant. And you'll see in the budget and that where that amount was actually, will show up in your budget reports here at the end of the year when you're looking at them. But again, that's one-time money. And the time will come when we're doing the budget, we can see what you might want to use that money that went into fund balance, whether it's needed to prepare next year's budget, capital projects, something like that.
Ms. Ann, I'm thinking when we voted last year, I remember a list that came to us and we appropriated a lot of this money last year.
This is actually different. We've been very fortunate in what we've got. The amount that you're speaking of that came through our budget was the local direct funding from the state. And what we're being told now I'm going to say this. Last month, you said, is there going to be any more money? And I said, not that we know of. That night, the governor had his address where he said, we're going to give you some more money. So what I told you was true last committee. But that night was when the governor gave us, I guess, State of the State address. And so we're going to have some more local direct money. We anticipate that based on what the governor's put in his budget, but of course, that's not been fully passed yet by the General Assembly.
But this is for COVID relief.
Yes.
I'm seeing some items on here.
These are federal funds, administered by the state, and these were on top of that local direct money that you're removing.
So we're okay. I mean, I'm just asking. We have one here for maintenance and repair of service vehicles on the work release program.
That one's $192.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
Yes, and because our support on this is on a check-by-check basis. If I can get to that, I can tell you what it might be. But I've got my list of support here is several pages long.
well, I would just, gives COVID relief, and that doesn't sound like COVID relief. It could be.
From what I understand when looking at this, it was actually hand sanitizer and disinfectant probably for the vehicles, to sanitize the vehicles.
That makes more sense.
Is that?
That makes more sense, yes.
I I'd be glad to answer any questions anymore about the detail of it, but just give me time to look it up.
In summary, we're going to spend the money that was spent last year, 700 and some thousand of it, and that'll go back into the general fund, and we will have that to earmark for other things?
Yes, that's
Okay.
exactly correct. That's how I look at it. We've got the money we got through last year without having to use the cash, but we were able to actually ask for reimbursement for these things because that's how the grant, that's how the COVID relief or the CARES Act was set up, and that's what we did.
Unless the COVID gets worse.
There's always that,
Right.
yes. Now, there's some, and we'll see, we haven't gotten any detail on this yet, but we anticipate that there's going to be some more funding available to the county, federally, from what just passed the Senate this Saturday. We first passed, that COVID relief, that huge COVID relief bill. Some of that money, as it's currently
You keep it.
structured, we don't know exactly how much, or all the strings that might be attached to it, but there is direct funding, I'm going to say, anticipated for local governments.
I said that because we didn't know in 2020 how bad it was gonna get.
No,
And
we did
found
not.
out, so.
And you're exactly right. We're fortunate, I'm just going to say, that our revenue collection has been higher than we anticipated back when we were doing last year's budget. I mean, that's something we can be thankful for. And we hope everything recovers fully in this next year. But, Commissioner, it may be, we'll just have to wait and see.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve Fund 101 CARES Act?
So moved.
We've got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passes. Item Fund 131, CARES Act, $45.83.
This is the same type of amendment as we did in Fund 101. This is for the expenses for this year.
Randy, we need 1-3.
Yeah. Item 3.
Three, item three.
Oh, I apologize, I jumped down one. Number 3, Fund 116 for CARES Act for $4,463.55.
Right, that's, 116, excuse me. I was just agreeing with everything there, but I didn't mean.
That's all right.
That's right, that's the garbage. Is $4,463.55.
I move that we approve.
Got a motion for approval. Do we have a second? We got a second, Joe Huntsman. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 4A4, Fund 131, CARES Act for $45.83. Do we have a motion to approve? Have we had enough discussion on that, or would like to discuss?
Make a motion.
Got a motion? Do we have a second? Got a second from Joe Huntsman? Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Item 4.5, 101 for County Clerk's Office for $1,288.
This, as you know, the county clerk has some restricted line items where revenue and fees are collected that she can use for automation purposes. This particular amendment was requested to put money in the account for printers. And again, automation for county clerk, these are the types of things that those funds can be used for.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Got a second from Mr. Goins? Any questions or further comments? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Item 4.6, Fund 101 for County Clerk's Office for $10,000.
This is a separate entry because this is for some separate items that the clerk is wanting to purchase. She's putting in some security cameras, some new signature pads, and card scanners. And this is, and again, anything that she does not spend, right now she gave me this as an estimate, as a best she, what she thought at the time. Anything she doesn't spend will remain in her account.
But that one's not subject to use for anything else, is that correct?
It's the same type of thing, this vehicle certificate of title fees. It's for automation in the clerk's office too.
Okay.
Does this come out of her reserve account?
What, Wayne?
Does this come out of the county court clerk's reserve account?
Yes, I call them the restricted accounts, but yes, that's
Restricted.
exactly right.
Do we have a motion to approve? Got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Fund 4A 7, that's Fund 101 Victims Assistance, $11,260.
This records a new grant. It puts the revenue for this grant in the revenue line item and assigns the budget lines where we will expend the funds. And this was for, as you know, this victims assistance, when CEASE was dissolved as an organization, now we have Harbor of Hamlin, but those grants actually run through the county. And this is a new grant to set up database software and their website set up. The match, and I think there was a small match, I can't remember the amount, it's being paid by Harbor of Hamlin out of the other funds.
Do we have a motion to approve? Mr. Huntsman, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Ms. Arnwine, any discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman of the Board. At this time, the Chair will recognize Chairman of the Board of the Personnel Committee.
All right. I'd like to call the Personnel Committee to order. Do we have any visitors wishing to address the committee? If not, in new business, we have approval of education pay submissions. You'll find that on the following page. Crystal Hawkins, do we have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Got a motion to approve, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Was that Ms. Arnwine?
It is.
Do we have any discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Like sign? Motion carries. Item 4B, approval of longevity pay, and this is for Frederick Underwood, $225. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Got a second, was that Mr. Horner? Any discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Item 4C, approval of military pay submissions, and this is for Jacob Kaufman for $350. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We got a motion, I think, Jeff, and then a second. Mr. Hahn? Any discussion? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman of the Board. This time, the Chair will recognize Chairman Goins of the Public Service Committee.
Thank you, Chairman. I call the Public Service Committee to order. 4A, surplus items from the,
Public comment, if anybody wants to make
Okay.
public comment.
anybody wishing to speak? Seeing none. Surplus items from Hamilton County Sheriff's Department, the Chemmels. Oh, okay.
Lieutenant Josh Ringley. We're looking to surplus our old tasers that are no longer in use, as well as the taser cartridges that accompany them. We're looking to give them to the city police department. They still use these tasers and as well as the cartridges. We have somewhere in between 10 and 15 tasers and upwards to 70, 75 cartridges left. So, and we have brand new tasers from what we purchased last year, so none of these will be active in our department.
The cartridges aren't, you can't use them. You can't use the cartridges in the,
No, the new tasers that we have are completely separate than the older cartridges that are used.
Out of curiosity, why did we purchase new ones if we already had those that worked?
The reason we did that is because with the new tasers, the company Taser itself will basically back us in court with these new tasers, as opposed to the old tasers, to where if we had a deployment on a call and there was some type of adverse effect past, compliance, they won't show up for the old tasers. So you're basically on your own at that point,
But that's good enough for our city?
evidently.
They don't have the new type of taser.
Not to my knowledge, no.
We have plenty of tasers go around, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Everybody that is at our department now is certified with the new taser and has one.
Are these tasers good enough to sell to the
Pretty
city?
old.
Same type they've got?
It is the same type they have.
Same cartridges they got?
Yes, sir.
Either give them to them or sell them to them?
The reason that we wanted to give them to them is over the years, we've had several officers from our department go to the city for in-service, and countless times they've provided us with the taser cartridges at no cost to us. So we look at it as more or less paying them back for what they have done for us in the past. And they don't charge us for this training either, to my knowledge.
anybody else? Do I have a motion to, approve for this, tasers?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Second, got a motion second. Item 4B, surplus item from the Hamilton County Highway Department.
Let's vote on
Gonna vote on that?
Oh, I guess we got to, don't we? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
4B, surplus items from Hamilton County Highway Department. Is there someone here from the Highway Department? Okay, there's a couple items in there. If you look at it, it's the 2013 dump truck.
Just a minute here. We need to record the no votes. You voted
Oh, I'm
no,
sorry.
and Wayne voted no.
Joe Hudson.
Yeah, Joe. Thank you. Sorry for
That's
the
okay.
interruption.
The items are a 2013 Mack dump truck, a 2005 Benson Enterprises hot and cold Magna blast pressure washer, 2008 Husqvarna walk-behind concrete saw. And I put that in the form of motion.
Nobody
I'm
here
sorry.
knows about them?
Huh?
Nobody here knows about any of this stuff?
There's no one here from the highway department. Anybody here know? Anybody?
Let's go ahead and get the motion on the floor before we discuss it. That was a good move.
We have a motion for approval. Everybody saying aye?
No motion, guys.
Guys, for lack of motion. Item 4C, surplus item from the Hamilton County Garbage Department. And it is also on the back of your book. Have approval for a motion, my buddy saying aye. Second?
James did. Who seconded?
Motion.
Do we have a
Do
second?
you have a second?
Second.
Who seconded?
Kim Horn.
Tim Horner.
Sorry.
All in favor, make a motion by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 4D, County Inmate Labor Usage 2021 Agreement. Mayor Britt.
Since 2012, we've had an agreement with the city of Morristown for the city to use inmate labor for their litter crew that they use downtown and other parts of the city. We entered in this agreement to cover any liability that we may have and give the city responsibility to cover any injuries that any of the inmates might have while working with the city and that kind of thing. So what is in your packet is an updated agreement. If you look on, we have the old agreement in there, and it's got 2012 agreement. We've got the resolution and attachment A with the terms of the agreement. And then we have the new resolution and new terms of the agreement, new attachment. The only change in the resolution is the year, 2021. So from the 2012 resolution to the 2021 resolution, the only change is the date. On the attachments, on attachment A, if you look at item number 15, what was added to item number 15 was the second sentence. Inmates will be searched by the city law enforcement officer prior to being returned. That was added to item number 15. Item number 16, the second and third sentences, inmates will be searched by the city law enforcement officer prior to being returned. Female inmates will be searched by a female corrections officer. That was added to 16. And then 17, a female law enforcement officer must accompany the work crew anytime female inmates are being utilized for the work program. That was added to the agreement. So those are the changes from the agreement that is currently in place to this new one.
Do I have a motion for approval?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor, make a motion by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Chairman, that's all I have.
Thank you, Chairman Goins. At this time, the chair will recognize Chairman Horner of the Justice Center Jail Project Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to call the Justice Center Jail Project Committee to order. If there's anyone who wishes to address this committee, may do so at this time.
My name is Tony Strauzulo at 609 East Louise Avenue. Who's the commissioner that's in charge of the area right there where the Justice Center is going to be built? Nobody? You? All right. So I would talk to Timothy, whatever his name is, the commissioner that's not here this evening. 2 weeks ago, and I had asked him a couple of questions. One of them was in regards to why are we pushing the new jail and justice center at the current location. His reasoning was the property taxes or property values are already low, and that it wouldn't be affected, and that the people that are there are already accustomed to living by a jail. I asked him if anybody had gone around and spoke to any of the people that lived there. So 2 weeks ago, my son and I, we spent 2 hours knocking on doors. Most of the people had no clue at all that there was even a justice center being built. Then when I explained it to them that it was going to be multi-story, they freaked out. Okay? They don't want this center here. They understand that the current center is small, it's almost hidden, and they don't have a problem with that. They do have a big issue with, one, nobody ever going and knocking on doors, sending out any letters, getting any feedback from these people. And they are concerned. They're very concerned. But nobody on this panel has done anything for the people that this is going to affect. So I'm not even here talking about how much money it's going to be built or not being able to get the employees for that. I'm here to talk about the people who are going to have to deal with this every single day, and they're dissatisfied. It's one thing to have a tiny jail that's almost hidden, and it's a different thing to have something that's going to look like a prison. Okay, you're not only talking about taking views away, but you're talking about property values too. I had 2 people in 2 hours say that they didn't care where the building was going to be built. 2 out of all of them, only 2. And one, he said, I don't care. I'm moving out of Hamilton County shortly anyways. So he really doesn't care. But the property value is going to diminish more than you think. And if it doesn't, then it's going to take longer for these properties to sell if people actually want them. Then the value will go down gradually, little by little. There'll be less taxes. They want to know why it hasn't been built out someplace else. Reasoning I was given, and I gave them, is because it was easier to spend more money to build it there than to run utilities in a better location. That's what I was told. Now, have any of you gone and actually done any kind of research on the effect it's going to have on these people? No, probably not, because none of them were involved in it. I know you got a phone call from a couple concerning that, and they gave me a letter, and I'll bring it next meeting, and if you'd like to read it out to them, to everybody, you can, as well as the signatures that I obtained from the people that do not want that facility there. They don't want it there. It's a big deal. You're changing the whole aspect of what the area is. You're going from something tiny to something huge. The magnitude is going to change. It's going to have effect on the people that live there, not just the property owners, but the tenants as well. And they're dissatisfied with you. Those are your people. That's your area. You should have gone out there. You should have knocked out doors. You should have mailed them letters, emails, whatever it took. But you didn't. So you failed your people, and you failed giving the people that are also on this board the knowledge to make the appropriate vote on that. And that's wrong. You're supposed to all be here for the people. And I can sit here and I can see the commissioners that are falling asleep, that are diddling around with other stuff, and the video doesn't lie. And the people need to know this. If y'all want to stay for another term, y'all need to step it up, because there's people that want to take your spots. And when people see that you don't do what you're supposed to do for the people, you're going to lose your spots. It's not up to you whether or not you keep them or not. It's not up to you anymore on who you know. It's what you're doing for the people, and they are not satisfied.
Anyone else wish to address?
Linda Noe, 2343 Joe Stevens Road. In a somewhat similar vein, I'd like to say we've seen this commission refuse a referendum, refuse a 120-day moratorium, refuse 15 minutes for a presentation. And right now, you know, there are addendums coming out. Mosley is never here to give you a presentation or an update. Burwell isn't, although we have people that are helpful to Burwell, but we don't have any Burwell representative here. They need to come, $975,000, they can't come here once a month and give a status update? Mosley, more than that? And you don't get a status update. Things may go to the mayor, but often they get stopped right there, and you still don't know what's going on unless you ask or happen to run into him or call him. But you need to get information, and I had Mr. Stepp say, oh, you've got your 30 days. The 30 days is for you all to do your due diligence. Find out, have somebody from Coffee County come up here. If you don't want to come to the meeting, fine. But let somebody come up here and put out the information to the public and to those commissioners who are willing to listen as to what the comparative costs are for a 600 bed or 628, whatever you want to call it, one level jail versus a 600 bed multi-story jail. Let them come here and give you the relative safety of the two types of structures. Let them come here and give you the staffing that they have. Of course, you have the staffing that has been mentioned, and of course it can fluctuate some, but you have the staffing that was presented to you by Jim Hart. Then make a decision. Then you will have done your due diligence. You won't have just made a decision and said, boom, we're done. If it costs an extra $25 million, $30 million, evidently there's not that much concern for the public. That's all I'm asking is, it's kind of like give it a chance. Get the information. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to address this committee?
Coffee, 8220 East AJ Highway, Whitesburg. I come in work at 5 o'clock in the morning. I can't even find a parking place. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, if we're building a jail on this little spot over here, what we're gonna do for parking? Second of all, what kind of fire escape plan are we gonna have? Because you wanna know what ours is right now? We take them to the playpen, as it's called, which is right there, right next to the building. So I don't know what we're supposed to do with 257 inmates in that small area, and you're right there at the jail. I mean, you're right there near a burning building. I'm not really sure exactly what it is you all are trying to do. I mean, I know I'm here talking for the people who can't come and talk. Why? Because they either have an extra job or they work nights. We are the ones that have to work in this. Granted, we do need a new jail. I'm not against that fact whatsoever. But I'm against the fact of, okay, if there is a fire, I understand there is stairwells and that kind of thing. But what I don't understand is, okay, what if you have a heart attack on the 4th floor during all of this? How are they gonna get to them? How are they gonna get down? Well, there's this another lawsuit we get to pay for. And I mean, I just don't think you guys are seeing the bigger picture. You all are not the only ones that's gonna have to deal with this. I mean, generations are gonna have to deal with this, and we are gonna be landlocked where we are. I mean, we couldn't expand or anything. So, I mean, I'm just really, I want y'all to consider what we do on a daily, what we deal with on a daily. That's all I'm asking. Just consider us, because we are the ones that have to work it. You all aren't. I've asked you to come and work a 12-hour shift with me, but I ain't seen no takers yet. So, I mean, until you can really understand what we do on a daily and how hard it can be on a daily, I don't see how y'all are making plans for us when you really haven't come to see what you can and can't do. I mean, I'm sorry, but I don't understand how you can say this is the best plan when, you know, the ones of us who have to work it and have to live it, it is not the best plan for us. And I mean, and I know all you guys support us in law enforcement and such. I understand that, and I appreciate y'all. But come on, kindly help us out here. Come see what we do. I mean, because we, you know, if we aren't heard, we're just kindly left on the side of the road somewhere. So, I mean, I'm just asking, just, you know, just come, see what we do. That's all I'm asking. Not no 15-minute walkthrough. I mean, even come stay 6 hours with us. See what we do. That's all I'm asking. I'm not asking for anything earth-shattering. I'm just asking 6 hours of your time. That's all, 6 hours. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to address this committee? If not, moving on. Item 3A, old business, there is none. Item 4A, new business, bid tabulation, the manufactured steel detention cells. Mayor Britton.
In an attempt to save a substantial amount of money, we pursued the concept of the county purchasing the detention cells and have the general contractor install them to try to not have to pay the sales and use tax on the cell units as another Tennessee county is doing. We spoke to the finance department of that county and jail administration of that county to confirm that that was the process that they were following. Well, we've confirmed that through the Department of Revenue that regardless of whether we purchase the sales or the contractor purchase the sales and use tax have to be paid by either the county or the general contractor. So therefore, the sales and use tax cannot be avoided as we had hoped that we could, because that would have been about between $400,000 and $500,000. So that was the basis of why we bid the detention cells. And the detention cell bidding was open last week. We had 2 manufacturers that were pre-qualified for the bid and submitted proposals. The bid tab's in your packet. As we analyzed the proposals, we found that neither bidder meets the minimum requirements of the specifications. Steel Cell did not bid the correct number of cells, so they didn't meet the minimum requirements. They were 100 short. And then MSSI of Colorado does not hold all the licenses necessary to bid on a project in Tennessee. So it doesn't meet the minimum requirements of the specifications. So therefore, based on that, what we're recommending, we have 2 recommendations. One is that we reject all the bids because neither bidder meets the minimum specifications. We can't accept them. And second is that we instruct Mosley Architects to add to the construction documents the furnishing of the detention cells since we can't avoid the payment of the sales and use tax. So those are the 2 recommendations that come from the bidding of the detention cells. That's the action that we're requesting from the committee.
Is there any discussion?
Bill, I see that on that one, the first company, Steel Cell North, just bid on 100 sales, where the company out of Colorado bid on 200.
In the base bid, yeah. In the base bid.
I think this doesn't include the catwalks, the stires, the handrails, and all that, does it?
That's correct. This is just the unit, the prefab unit.
So the way I understand it, the one in Colorado, they don't have license to operate in Tennessee? Is that right?
Correct. The manufacturing license they do not hold.
So we're locked in with one then, if
Uh,
we can get their bids.
Aren't they in the process of getting their license?
They're in the process, yeah, we talked to them today, and they're in the process of going through to get the license, their manufacturing license.
Okay. I noticed on the one in Colorado, that alternate, that was under 3E and 3F. Is that the third floor?
That's the third floor, that's the dormitory unit for the
That's a
third floor.
dormitory, okay, and no cells
Correct. There's no cells in the dormitory unit.
in that dormitory. But the other one had 40 cells in the dormitory, so they're not,
They're all messed up.
they're messed up, yeah.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the recommendation that we reject the bids and instruct Mosley Architect to include.
In the
Whatever you
construction
said.
plans.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second.
Yeah.
We have a question.
Any more discussion?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, I want to make sure I'm clear on this. So if we submit that back to Mosley, we'll bid those on our behalf because we're not going to be able to avoid the sales and use tax?
The general contractor.
Yeah, okay, the general
The
contractor.
general contractor, the four general contractors that'll be bidding will be the ones that'll be negotiating with the manufacturers.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
You got a motion and a second?
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? One opposed.
Taylor said that.
Item 4B, Justice Center project bid update. Mayor Britton.
On consultation with the architect, the project manager, geotechnical consultant, a decision was made to bring the design of what's called the micropile system, which is part of the foundation system of the building, in-house or back into Mosley Architects. What Mosley had done in the original plans that are on the street right now is they had what they call delegated the design of the micropile system to the bidder or the potential bidder. The bidder would have been responsible for getting the design of the micropile system and then developing a price and submitting that with its overall bid for the project. What we found out from the geotechnical consultant is that the micropile system that was in the plans could be reduced. That's what the geotechnical consultant told us. And so, and reduced by about 40%, which is about $2 million. So by bringing the design back in-house, Mosley having the micropile system designed and then bid, include that in the construction bid, it could save us about $2 million on the system. So so that's been done this week. The design for the micropile system is due to Mosley. Then they'll issue an addendum on Friday, which will issue the design of the micropile system, and then the construction companies will bid off of, all of them will bid off the same design, micropile design. So it'll save the money a substantial amount of money and also save us about 30 to 60 days in construction time as well, because there won't be as many micropiles.
So Mosley, they design it, and then the contractors will go whatever Mosley said. This is the way you're gonna build it.
Correct.
Okay, I know there've been several addendums to this thing over the last 3 weeks.
There's been 2.
Okay, I think there's another one come out, addendum 3. But anyway, I got a micro pile design. Is that the design that Colgate built down there?
I have no idea. Micropiles are what goes to bedrock.
That's where they dug holes and put pilings in it? Because all the Colgates, if you ever been down there, that's in a rocky place. And the whole building is sitting on these pilings. They're all around this whole building, and they're sitting on it. Is that similar to what
It sounds like it.
we're looking at?
It
Okay.
sounds like it, yes.
You can check that
The
Colgate.
geotechnical company that is consulting with Mosley's the one who did all the testing of the site over here earlier. It's the same company.
Their recommendation will be, I mean, just because we're saving money, we're not giving up. There's a thing you can overbuild. We're not underbuilding, are we?
No, I asked that question
Okay.
specifically.
Okay.
I've got another one, Bill. Is there any way we could get Burwell to come in and just kind of touch base with us, what's going on?
Sure, Tony Pettit is on vacation right now. That's why he's not here today.
If he could come once a month, just let us know kind of what's...
He was here last time.
But I mean, give him,
Here.
here's a microphone, get up there and talk. He didn't say nothing.
Sure,
I mean, let us know what's going on.
sure. I'll ask him to be here next week during the commission meeting next week.
Okay, thank you.
Motion?
If he's going to address the commission, we need to get him on the agenda tonight.
Okay. Or do you want him just to answer questions? How do you guys want to do it?
Probably a little bit of both.
Okay. So during the
Jail study committee, have an eye,
okay.
we'll take care of that when we get to the calendar and rules.
Okay.
Because it's easier to do that tonight than
Yes.
next Thursday.
Yes.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Say- There is none. That's all I have.
State the motion again, so it's, oh, you're talking about the, rejecting the bids.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the-
Okay, all right. Clerk,
That's all I have.
let's go ahead right now and add to your agenda for next week, Mr. Pettit.
Okay. We need a motion.
I'll move that we add to your agenda, Mr. Pettit, at our meeting next Thursday.
Have a motion. Do I hear a second? Second, Tim Goins. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Horner. This time, the chair will recognize Chairman Steph of the Calendar and Rules Committee.
Thank you, Chairman. I call to order the Calendar and Rules Committee. Anyone wishing to address the committee may do so at this time.
Linda Noe, 2343 Joe Stevens Road. I'm glad you've made the decision to ask Mr. Pettit to come here. He needs to come here every month, and frankly, Mosley should be here every month. The mayor mentioned Addendum 2. Evidently, Mosley hasn't told him that Addendum 3 was released last Friday. And now we're talking about Addendum number 4. And I remember last month, you laughed at Mr. Neesmith when he questioned the sales tax situation. You were right, Wayne. You were right. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Pindos.
Tony Stradazzulo, 609 East Louise Avenue. This is a big change to save $2 million and almost change the construction of the foundation of this building. What other things have been overlooked that can be changed? If we continue to make these addendums, obviously the layout and the construction as it was originally done isn't adequate. There's changes that can be made. Now, I went to a couple of other sheriff's departments in the area, and I spoke with them. I found out about their jail, finances, issues, construction, layout. And I know that these other places have what is considered to be a wagon wheel style facility, and they all love them. There is nothing that they would change about them. I asked that question. What would you change about your facility? Now, I do have a couple of other facilities that I'm getting ready to go and check out. One of them is just getting ready to be under construction. And he said that at the beginning, it was all the commissioner and the mayor and whatever they wanted until they pushed. The people, we're talking about the people that work at these jails, that are going to run these jails, they pushed to be heard. And now they are working 100% with the committee and the mayor to address what they feel is necessary in the jail that they are going to be building. They didn't just run out and build a jail. And they're not the only sheriff's department that has told me that. I was told, do not put your blinders on. Do not think about what you want for today. Think about what you want for tomorrow. How many women can be housed in this facility? Because according to Greenville, they got just as many female inmates as they do male inmates. In years back, it was the total opposite. They had so many less females. So now they've had to address that, and they're landlocked, and they cannot do it because they're landlocked. They also have the same size workhouse facility as what our current jail is altogether. Those people go into factories and they have jobs. They get paid exactly what the people would pay that if they were working there. Some of them get to continue that job. They make money. They send money home. They garden on their property, which reduces their per inmate fee by almost $7 or $8 per day. Just by being able to go out there and garden. They go to farmers. After they've picked their first and second crop, they pick whatever's left. And that helps them. We don't have any of that. We just want to house. Everybody that I've spoken to that has anything to do with law enforcement, the biggest arrests made day in and day out are drugs. It's all based on drugs. Not theft because somebody has a drug habit. But drugs themselves, okay? We need to address the drug situation. We shouldn't have to lock everybody up and let them sit there so that they can get out and come right back in the revolving door. That's what they all tell me. It's a revolving door. You want to diminish the amount of people that are sitting in jail? Help those people. Do all people want help? No, they don't all want help. And a lot of them will sit in rehabs for whatever amount of time and can't wait to get out for that first hit. A lot of those people, they end up in statistics, okay? They go and they OD. I have a friend that did that, or a friend of a friend. That's what happened. They did their time, but they went out, they got involved with the same people, okay? You can't just lock them up and expect for them to change. You want them to change? Put an electric monitor on them. Send them back to their surroundings and let them know that if they screw up, then they'll be back in jail. Make them take their drug tests. Don't just make them serve their time and release them out, because that's not solving any problems at all. Every sheriff's office tells me the same exact thing. You all, it's on my YouTube channel. I know a lot of you watch my videos. Watch them. Watch them. They're there for you. They're there for everybody. It's an educational thing. Don't take my word for it. Listen to it right out of their own mouths. The stuff that they deal with, the flooding issues, the fire issues, the fighting, all of that stuff, okay? These people...
Time's up, sir. Thank you very much for your time.
You're very welcome.
Anyone else? If not, item 3A, under old business, we have none. Item 4A, review of regular calendar items. We have a motion to approve.
We need to point out that when we approve this, that we're deleting 10B. 10B.
Sorry.
We'll be deleting 10B under Public Service Committee report, surplus items for Hamlin County Highway Department. We did not approve that.
Right.
So that item will be deleted.
With that omission of regular calendar items, 10B under Public Service Committee. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion by Tim Horner, do I have a second?
Who seconded?
I'll
He's
second it.
on the committee.
He's not on the committee.
I need a second.
I got it. I'll cover it. Second.
I need a second. Any discussion? All approve, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 4B, review of consent calendar items. We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All approve, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. That's all I have, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Steph. I want to remind the commissioners that it would be very helpful if you leave your notebook here for Trish to update for our meeting Thursday week. Don't forget that this Thursday at 6 p.m., the Rules Review Committee will be meeting here in this courtroom. Thank you. We'll stand adjourned.